not only the country, but probably the world. Like you said, you brought up a good point, Scott. You know, a lot of people are assuming that it has no connection with China whatsoever. It doesn't. There's no connection with the lab leak or any of that nature. It could possibly be right here in our own backyard in the United States. So if it is, like, let's talk a little bit about the depopulating theory. Like, why do you think, in your personal opinion, probably, if you want to weigh in on it, why do you think they want to go to that avenue?
Satan's war against mankind started with the garden, and it has never stopped. Satan hates man because man was made in God's image, and he has sowed a couple of whoppers over time. One is we have limited resources on the planet. And so consequently, because of the limited resources, we need to implement climate change and population control. So now take that through the law of entropy 6,000 years later. What does that look like? You know, we have been programmed to a degree people can't understand. And God prophesied this ahead of time in Revelation 18:23. He told us how Satan is going to do it in Revelation 13. He said he's going to have two systems, an antichrist system and a false prophet system. This is the Hegelian dialectic model I was telling you about earlier. But in Revelation 18:23, I'm just going to quote it. I have it on a slide here so I don't misquote it. It says, "For your merchants were the most important people, because with your sorcery," which if you look in the Greek, sorcery is pharmakia, "they deceived all the nations." I believe the United States is the one that is leading the entire world to that end. COVID exposed it. In the 39 months that we call the COVID era, there were 1.2 million hospital murders in the United States. So you think, is that a big number, a little number? I'm going to tell you, it's a huge number. There's 200 countries on the planet. The United States was number one of all the countries in the entire world, with 1.2 million hospital murders. Number two was India. Consider that India's population is 4 times that of the United States, and their land mass is only 1/3. Yet their hospital murder number was 531,000, less than half of the United States. So this should wake people up. That statistic alone should wake people up to say, oh my gosh, we have been told we live in the best country in the world, right? We have our freedoms, and it's all a lie. It's all a lie to get us to point the finger at all the other countries. It's called projecting your sin. So you look at what we talk about with the Canadian MAID program, medical assistance in dying. Well, those naughty Canadians, they have socialized medicine. That's why they're doing that. Well, I'll tell you folks, March 23rd of 2010, we codified socialized medicine with Obamacare. Believe me, I'm not throwing Obama under the bus. I'm throwing all the politicians under the bus. And if you look at section 1553 of Obamacare, you will see we legalized euthanasia way before the Canadians in section 1553. It's legal to euthanize our population in Obamacare. And as people don't realize it, they can't wrap their heads around it. When people hear me talk, the people who are not awake, they think that I've lost my mind. I have not lost my mind. God gave me this ability to research, and that's why I've been on so many programs.
I don't think you lost your mind. Clearly, by what you're saying, you're trying to inform people and wake people up, and I think most of us are trying to do the very same thing, Scott. I think the people that have lost their mind are a lot of these career politicians, a lot of these so-called scientists of hacks that have no idea what science is.
Warning: this show contains strong language, brutal opinions, and zero apologies given. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
Welcome to Savaged Unfiltered, where truth gets raw, opinions stay real, and nothing is off limits. This isn't your average podcast. It's the unfiltered conversation you've been craving. Politics, culture, chaos, we're diving into it all. No scripts, no safe spaces, Just savage takes and real talk. You're in the right place. Strap in. It's time to get unfiltered. Savage.
Hey guys, what's going on? Savage here, Michael Gardner. I'm sorry for that lengthy video, guys, but I want to catch up a little bit with my audience on who I'm about to bring on. That video was actually broadcast here on our Savage library about 2 years ago with Mr. Scott Schara on the show. And we got into some of how he sees COVID and his views and, obviously his opinions. And I mean, rightfully so. And I just want to let you guys know this episode may be emotional. It may be a little touching due to the nature of what happened with his daughter Grace some years back during the COVID era, which Scott will get into. Basically, facing a journey, said the least, in the last coming of years with medical malpractice of what he's calling it through COVID. Unfortunately, his daughter had passed away due to that nature. But without further ado, I want to bring in the old man here, the guest of the, co-host, Tom. Sorry about that, buddy. I'm just a little,
No problem. This is a very sensitive subject, and everybody needs to pay attention because I listened to that. It's the first time I heard that clip, and I totally agree with him. Totally agree with him. I come from a medical family. My mom was a registered nurse forever. She's the old school nurse. And there were certain things she used to say to us kids, as we were growing up. At least she did to me. And I could never understand why. I didn't never ask her, what kind of why are you saying don't be an organ donor? Why do you say that? That's one of the ones. And my eyes have been kind of open. She never would really openly talk about stuff that's going on in the hospitals. But the older I've gotten now, the more I see what's going on. I know exactly what she was talking about. And it's the kind of stuff, yeah.
And this is, like I said, guys, this has been a constant battle here for Scott, facing huge amounts of lawsuits with the hospital that Grace had passed away at, with these doctors. And, some of what we got into the first part about 2 years ago with Scott was very touching. And it broke me down a little bit after hearing it. And I mean, still, people to this day, including Scott and others, just want the truth. They really want the truth. That's all they want, Tom. They want the truth out of all this. They don't want to be lied to, because I think that's what the majority is of us going through. I mean, still now, 5 years later, just about, we still don't understand the answers to this whole COVID stuff. You know what I mean?
And this thing about depopulation and all this and that's been happening long before COVID. COVID was just another step in the process, as far as I'm concerned, in my humble opinion. It was another step in the process. Yeah. Let's see what we can do. And we're going to use this as an avenue to depopulate. Yeah. And that's another thing that's cracked me up. Why do these people want to depopulate? Why? Because the smaller the population, the easier it is to control. The old man, he's a conspiracy theory. You know what? Sometimes you need to listen to conspiracies because, they shed the light on stuff. But truth has become a curse word.
Yeah. Well, I was telling you about this gentleman here I brought on about 2 years ago with his, story with Grace and, the lawsuits, the constant battle with all this through COVID. I'm sure you had looked up, some of what's been going on with Scott. I mean, this is a national thing with him, as it's been catching national attention, with regular networks that he's been aligned with, telling the story, other podcast shows. And he's trying to, help others as well, too, to fight back. Don't bend the knee, don't surrender, because in my personal, opinion towards COVID-19, a lot of people weren't explained the God honest truth about this.
No.
This I call it a lab nightmare that affected the country. Literally, a nightmare of a disease and a virus. That we still don't know the true origins of this damn thing. You know what I mean? So,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. It's just,
yeah,
it's the, they play us as fools, and I think the majority of us are fools. We just listen to what they say. Oh, the experts, in my opinion, Mike, an expert isn't anybody more than you and I. An expert is someone that thinks that their opinion is more important.
absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
So what are experts? Just people that think they're important and their opinion is more valid than yours.
Yeah.
Bullshit, people.
Yeah. Well, like I tell people, sometimes my show is not for everybody, and we go a little unfiltered with our words, but you know what? It comes out with emotion, guys. Because we're concerned still now, 5 years later. Without further ado, I want to bring on Mr. Scott Schara. Welcome to the show, Scott. How you doing?
Oh, great to see both of you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So Scott, tell us a little bit about, what's been going on in the last 2 years since we've had you on the show, sir.
Well, it's been quite a whirlwind in the last 2 years, and we had the jury trial, which was the highlight, and then I wrote my first book, which will get released later this month. So it's been extremely busy. The jury trial happened in June. Unbelievably, we had a better team, better evidence. We had the truth on our side, all of those things. We had a fantastic medical expert. All of that ended up not mattering. The jury decided 11-1 against us, so we lost the jury trial. That was a shock to me when they delivered the verdict, but yet it's not a surprise when you understand programming. Even in you two guys going back and forth and you're open, certain words that you use show how deep the programming is. For example, virus, lab leak. These are things that they keep repeating over and over and over to get us to buy narratives that are simply lies. The whole virology agenda, which got going in the later 1800s, was designed in the Hegelian dialectic model. Problem, reaction, solution. So the problem, we create a new virus, the reaction, fear, the solution, always a jab. So virus, fear, jab, virus, fear, jab. It keeps been repeating over and over and over. That's one of the reasons they were able to pull off COVID. Then the idea of a lab leak. Well, that presumes virology is even real. And the lab leak makes it convenient to blame it on something that they can fix versus this thing was by design and it has nothing to do with China. Process the fact that, in your open, you played the clip from 2 years ago, which was fantastic.
And the reason why I mentioned, if I may, Scott, the reason why I did mention China is because at that point 2 years ago, we were still trying to connect the dots, as we still are to this day. So
right, and they purposely put those deceptions out there. China's another boogeyman, just like viruses are boogeyman. So we are masters in this country. The people who run it, they are masters at deception. They have a direct line to Satan's methods, and deception is the most common method. What they have us projecting. So if you process, the media is all controlled, right? So they teach us things by programming us that we want to project our sin, these naughty Canadians or these Chinese, and yet we're the ones that are the instigators. The United States, I believe, has been deemed to be the leader of this entire process worldwide to deceive us into the control grid. And as I learned more and more and more, when you posted that from 2 years ago, and I think, well, I had a lot of that stuff already nailed down 2 years ago, and I keep researching, since Grace's death. I have 4,000 hours of research in already. And, it started with the whole medical thing. And you asked me about the last 2 years. The trial itself was really a distraction, but it was a necessary distraction because it was a puzzle piece. And God called us in to do the trial. I would recommend nobody ever do a wrongful death trial unless God calls you to do it. The reason is because you cannot win these things. The goal they have, similar to the medical industrial complex, has created an illusion that they're for us and that they can give us pills to fix things. The legal industrial complex is an illusion of justice. And it is virtually impossible to win in that system. Statistically, the odds of winning is about 1 in 10,000, believe it or not. But anyway, being called into that, we knew we were not going to settle. God wanted us to take it all the way. And so it's obvious as to why, even though, of course, I'm disappointed with the verdict. If you look at it through the lens of a much bigger picture, a loss was more important than a win, because God wants us to open our eyes, have the scales removed, and not be deceived. So don't be deceived that the legal system is going to be some way out of this mess. The only way out of this mess is repentance.
Yeah, I did see the case, and I'm sorry that it was a loss, Scott. I know you've been trying to battle that for some time now. Through that upset, are you planning on to appeal it in some way with your lawyers? If you could speak on that, or are you surrendering to this, Scott, or are you going to push this a little forward?
I'm not going to surrender to everything, anything. This is the rest of my life. But in the legal system, what we did post jury verdict, which was on June 19th, is on October 29th, I filed a motion for a new trial, and the hearing on that motion was December 19th, and it was denied. The purpose of the motion for the new trial was that the judge denied in the pretrial on May 20th, he denied our motions in limine. Motions in limine are the things that your legal team puts together that we want the court to make sure does not come into the trial. And so in my case, we had two things that we did not want to come into the trial. One is my religious beliefs, which are protected by state statute. And number two is the beliefs that I've developed post Grace's death by being a researcher. Neither of those things had anything to do with what happened to Grace during the 7 days she was in the hospital. Well, what happened during the pretrial is the judge didn't even hear our arguments. He got frustrated with the fact that I am doing interviews, and I gave an interview to the local press. And that frustration, he said on the record, there are going to be consequences, and they're all going to be on the plaintiff, which was me. And the consequence was given to us shortly thereafter. 5 minutes later, he denied all of our motions in limine without even hearing a syllable. And so what happened is that set up the trial to not be fair, assuming you could even get a fair trial, but it's really set it up in favor of the defense, because now they could pounce on me relative to my beliefs about COVID, my beliefs about the medical industrial establishment, my religious beliefs. So they were very successful at painting me as a whack job to the jury. And I don't blame them. I mean,
that's unbelievable. Yeah, if I may. So he's going off of, if I'm hearing correctly, okay, he really at this point, he didn't want to listen to anything you had said. He's going off of other appearances through podcasting and through, regular media networks. I mean, that sounds absurd.
Well, it is absurd, but one of the attorneys that we had on the team, I had a 5-person legal team plus myself, and they graciously accepted me as the 6th member once they realized I really knew the case and understood the records. But one of the attorneys who was a former judge, he said, Scott, in a courtroom, the judge is the most powerful person on the planet. So he denied those motions in limine. He also denied the motion for new trial. So then, you asked me the question, am I resigned to that reality? And unless God tells me to do otherwise, yes, I am resigned to that reality, because why would I waste any more time? I've already been done what I was called to do, which was to expose the injustice system. So that's been done. There's no sense in pursuing that anymore and just keep wasting time and money on something that is against us.
It's interesting you brought that up, okay, where you said, you already established your one mission towards this was to expose the inner system of COVID, right? So with that being said, would you be honored of credit of your case there, including, Grace's case as well with this medical malpractice of COVID? Would you have the honor of lifting this COVID nightmare of where we are now? I mean, because of what you have done through these courts and everything else?
So, where things are at right now, if you really zoom out, and I mentioned, you replayed in the open, I mentioned of Revelation 13, which I think is very significant for people to understand. If you understand the big picture, then you can see how the puzzle pieces fit together. So Satan runs the world through two beast systems, which God warns us of in Revelation 13, the Antichrist system and the false prophet system. So right now we have the false prophets laying out quote solutions constantly. Trump is still bragging about Operation Warp Speed Save the Planet. What a bunch of foolishness. But if you tell a lie enough times over and over, it becomes programmed into what people believe. So, they want to paint COVID as a mistake. COVID was an absolute success. Any person who tells you it was a mistake, run from, because it was not a mistake. It was a perfect success. They were able to steer the entire world, not just the United States. They convinced the entire world to flatten the curve. It was complete bullshit. And once we realized that, people, so process just a simple thing. Right? So the Smith-Mundt Act became legislation in 1948. So whenever they pass legislation, it's all a deception. All legislation is a deception. So in 1948, they passed legislation that says we can deceive everybody on earth other than our own citizens. Okay, so that's the purpose of the Smith-Mundt Act. Okay, so now they passed that. So obviously they've deceived our citizenry since then, right? We have multiple things. We got the John F. Kennedy assassination. Okay, so that's a complete deception. We have 9/11. That's a complete deception. And I specifically point to those two because the deception of those two happened before 2012, which the modernization of the Smith-Mundt Act made it legal for our government to lie to its own citizens. So then, once you understand that reality, they're lying to us and they're doing it on purpose constantly.
I want to bring this up if you don't mind, because you're bringing into things, now 5 years later, and I truly believe that COVID-19 has reflected some of its seeds, right, through that era of American behavior to this day. I truly believe that. With social media, with everything, there are people like literally losing their minds right now in society, and everybody is just literally breaking down. And I truly believe in my heart that it has a lot to do with COVID. When we were locked down, we were isolated from the outside world. We were told not to go to grocery stores. We were told to stay 6 feet away from one another, that social distance that you kind of brought in a little bit. That's what we were told. And I'm sorry, folks, we kind of sipped the Kool-Aid way too much during that, and it's sunk into our heads. The majority of us. It's terrible what happened to our country then and what's going on now. People are fighting with one another right now. They're having more arguments than civil conversations. And Scott, where does our country go from here? That's...
and I want to say, I like how I agree with Scott, especially when he starts bringing in the spirituality of this whole thing. The devil. Who's the master deceptor? Satan. And if he's laughing his butt off right now with what's all that's going on. And I want to say this to everybody that's listening to this show. Once somebody starts talking like about God and Satan, everybody goes, "Oh well, here we go again." But let me tell you something that a pastor told me. He said, "Do you believe in the good?" "Yes, I believe in the good." He goes, "Then you have to believe in the evil." And that's the problem. Satan's biggest achievement is getting us to not believe that Satan's real.
That's right.
Because we throw it all out. Oh, you start talking about the devil. Well, that you're just a religious lunatic. No, if you believe in the good, you got to believe in the evil. And once you come to grips with that and your eyes open up, you can start seeing it, and it starts making more sense. Because there are two forces at battle right now over mankind.
That's right.
God and Satan. And Satan's got such a large foothold in it. And all this stuff is a big, like Scott says, it's all a big deception.
Well, before we go back to Scott, I do want to mention something. Are we out of the COVID era nightmare? To an extent we are, but the ending result of that era is what we currently are seeing in American behavior. And I wholeheartedly believe that, with, just the isolation of the American public. People are spending more time on social media than spending time with their families or friends or loved ones. All right. Like I mentioned the arguments, I mentioned the erratic behavior of civil unrest in major cities. I mean, if we didn't go through the COVID era of lockdowns and isolation and manipulation of lies of medical data from who, Anthony Fauci, would we be at the predicament now in America? I mean, I have to throw that little question mark out to the listeners that are tuning into this episode. Would we be at this mark right now in American history? It's hard to say.
I don't think so, because people took it hook, line, and sinker. They took what they were being fed, hook, line, and sinker, and they were, like you said, like you like to say, Michael, they were drinking the Kool-Aid. They weren't just sipping at the cup, man. They were gulping it down.
Yeah, they were,
and that's why we're at now. And
I think that COVID sped things up. But what history is repeating itself over and over and over. So COVID is a stake in the ground that certainly shows us where we're at. But the deception that Satan has used, if you look at First Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, God says, we will be deceived by peace and safety. So whenever there's a great problem, we always look for a solution. So the Hegelian dialectic method is made for us because we are lazy and sinful. So we fall for that trap every time. Think about, I did not vote. I will never vote again because I see voting as a deception. Yet I, like most people, when Trump won the last election, even though I know elections are a complete deception, it's like, oh, wow, thankfully. Well, why would I even have that sense? Well, because we have a perception that he's going to provide more peace and safety than the other side. And, taking what Jim said, I can't call you old man, Jim, because I'm also an old man. So I don't know how we would get through that. But the, the situation with what Satan has done, so you're right, it is good versus evil, but what Satan has done very deceptively is convince us that less evil is good. So there's a constant dialectic method that is used to create two choices. And God's way is the third choice. It's always outside of the dialectic. So we have Democrat, Republican. So evil Democrats, less evil Republicans. We have evil CNN, less evil Fox. Well, all those are dialectics to keep us in the two choice trap that Satan has been absolutely masterful at deceiving us with. And there's always a third choice. And the third choice is rebuking evil in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. And so not participating anymore. Like I'm choosing to not participate in the Babylonian voting system. It's a complete deception. We have a country that's a corporation. The presidents are selected. Okay, so why would we participate? It's because Satan has to get us to participate. So then we are legally bound in that satanic realm.
Yeah, Scott, I have a question for you. You know, as a spiritual person, which you clearly are presenting on the show, this is going to be kind of hard to say, but I will say it anyway so I can get maybe a clear answer. All these years later, have you finally accepted the ending results of Grace's death or not? I have to say that with all respect, sir, you know, because of your statue of a highly spiritual and, you know, somewhat religious man.
So I want to just define spiritual and religious, because I don't know that I'm either one. I'm definitely not religious. Jesus was the most anti-religious person who ever walked the face of the earth. Spiritual, it depends how we define it. You know, what I want to do is walk with God. So then in that realm, I would be a spiritual man. And so, you know, when do I walk with God? You know, generally when I'm sleeping. You know, most of the time when I'm awake, you know, I want my own way, but, you know, submitting to him is what the responsibility that I have is. So then your question, I think, is fantastic. Hardly anybody ever asked that question. I think that they're afraid they dance around it, but that might be the best question that you could ever ask so people can understand. So I'm going to give you a relatively long answer to that question, but the short answer is yes. So have I come to grips with all of this? And the answer is yes. But the why is the long answer. So why I've come to grips with this is multiple. Number one is that God is sovereign. So was it God's perfect will that Grace died in that hospital on October 13th of 2021? Absolutely not. She died as a result of sin. So it wasn't his perfect will, but he's sovereign. So that means after an event happens, nothing happens without God knowing it. God knew the date, time, and situation that Grace was going to die in before she was ever born. So as soon as you can come to grips with that, the better, because then you can move on and do what you're called to do as a result of it.
The reason why I asked you that, respectfully, sir, is because, you know, people's mindsets do change over the course of time, you know, with, you know, stuff like this. And I have to throw this up here, you know, now, you know, some years back, you know, or excuse me, some years later with Grace, do you truly believe now, after going through all of the court casing, all of the research and everything, do you truly believe, as a father and a spiritual man of God, that COVID necessarily killed Grace, or was it through something else?
Grace did not die of COVID. Okay. Grace died because of two things. And first, I'm going to shine the light on me first.
I'm sorry I had to ask you, though, but my listeners are probably going to be very, very, you know, questionable and curious on this, as I had to put this graphic up here, you know, through your amount of research, which you have elaborated on the show in the beginning, folks, that Scott has done intensive amounts of research with all this throughout the years and everything else. So I'm sorry, but I did have to ask that question.
I think it's a great question. So people have died of COVID, whatever COVID was. So COVID was not a virus. So whether they put something in our water, something in our air, I don't know the answer to that because I haven't dug into that enough. I mean, you know, so Grace, I'm going to say, had COVID, but not COVID as a virus. She had respiratory distress as a result of this thing that we're going to call COVID.
Right. You did explain that on the, you know, the first part I had you on a few years ago. So I was just wondering if that had changed throughout your research, because obviously, you know, when people dig into the research a little bit, they're going to find different results, obviously.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure if the results, some years later of you going through them had changed or if it stayed the same. That's yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just going to explain this very specifically because you asked a very important question, and this answer that I'm going to give you is the most important answer I could ever give you. So I'm going to shine the light on me. Grace died because I took her to the hospital. Why did I take her to the hospital? Because I trusted man instead of God, and ultimately I had to repent of that. If Grace would have never went to the hospital, she would be alive today. So now she's in the hospital. That does not change the responsibility the hospital had to take care of my daughter. Grace died in that hospital, not because of COVID, but because they gave Grace 3 contraindicated meds that you give people when you're putting them down in hospice care, Precedex, lorazepam, and morphine in 26 minutes. And when it came time to revive Grace, they would not because the doctor had put an illegal, unauthorized, unilateral do not resuscitate order on her chart. So that's what the trial was about. That's why it was a shock with the jury's decision, but I'm not surprised because of the programming. Then I want to say one more thing because it fits into this, how could I possibly even file a lawsuit? All of these things. I've been on over 1,200 shows. You can tell by talking with me, I presume that, I'm not getting angry over Grace's death. The reason is because I went into a different hospital and I survived 3 days after Grace died. And during that time I was in the hospital, I was in the hospital 4 days. I just about died on October 16th of 21. And God broke me during that time. And as part of that breaking, what he did was he gave me a spirit of forgiveness towards the doctor and nurse who did this to Grace. And so when I met the doctor and nurse for the first time, which was during their depositions, I shook both their hands and told them I forgave them. And the reason is because I did forgive them. One of the goals of the trial, which, praise God, this got brought up during the trial itself. The trial was live streamed. That's a miracle in and was fantastic. Over a million people saw some of the
like I said, folks, this has caught national attention, and it rightfully is so because this is heartbreaking. So you shook the doctor's hand in forgiveness. What was his response at first, Scott?
It was interesting. He was, I would say, gracious towards me. He never said sorry or sorry for your loss or anything, but he was gracious toward me. The nurse, on the other hand, so the doctor already knew who I was because we sat through his deposition first before I went over to the other side of the table after the deposition and shook his hand. The nurse, on the other hand, I met her in the hallway going into the deposition. And so I stopped her and introduced myself as to who I was because she had never met me either. And she instantly pulled her hand away. And I went and I grabbed her hand then and said, I want you to know I forgive you. And she just turned away and didn't want to acknowledge.
That's sad.
That is very sad.
Yeah.
So, they asked during the trial, which was really neat. It was, now that we had, they had the license to make me into a conspiracy nut. So they asked those.
I seen that, questions. Scott. I see you all over, social X, all over the place where they're painting you out to be, a whack job. And certain words, I'm using quotations and paraphrasing, folks. They're looking at him as a liar, as a person that's just trying to do this for clickbait. And that is sick, Scott. Literally sick. That people would paint you out to be this way.
It's the way people are. So I'm not, I don't even respond to that type of stuff because, I want Grace's story to be above reproach. We spent, you don't spend $2 million of your own money for clickbait. And,
no, not at all.
we're trying to, even my worst enemies, I don't want to have happen to what happened to, Grace was my best buddy. You don't want to lose your best buddy. So I'm doing, it sounds so stupid and simple, but I just don't want anybody else to lose their best buddy.
I hear you. And guys, I want to play a video here, a clip that I have of a network that picked up Scott's story here, with Grace's, journey and battling through, what had happened all those years ago. Guys, check this out.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
So I do apologize. The audio was kind of cut out there. I do apologize for that. But that was I was through YouTube, actually, a network that picked that up, Scott.
Really?
And
I haven't seen that one before.
Yeah. So we'll try to put it through the clips and everything. But I apologize. But basically, they're going through the story of what had happened, the case and, on how it, came to light with society, here through COVID and, obviously your battles through the court system and stuff like that. And, I just find it sad that, a person like yourself, a father, and you mentioned how Grace was very close to you. You guys were best friends, and she meant the world to you, as I'm sure, you meant the world to her, vice versa. But I find it very sad that the media, would make this more of a narrative than a heartbreaking story, because it's heartbreaking. I mean, like anybody that's going to lose, their, let alone a family member of their daughter or son, to anything in the world. And it's sad that the media today will challenge your theory on this that I see. I mean, I look, Scott, I've been following you now for like the last couple of years of things. I mean, you've been sending me things through email, to keep me updated what's going on throughout the years. And it's disgusting how these people are treating you. Sir, I know you're spiritual and everything, but damn it, even spiritual people have a patience level. How do you deal with this, Scott?
Yeah, that's a great question. My favorite book of the Bible is the book of Esther. Yeah, my favorite and it's not my favorite verses in Esther. Actually, my favorite verse is Galatians 3:3. But the favorite book is the book of Esther, and the verse that everybody points to in that book is Esther 4:14, when Esther's uncle asked her, "How do you know that you haven't been made for a time such as this?" And the context of that example was Esther was a Jew. It was just through a very unlikely set of circumstances, other than it was by God's providence, she became the queen. And, so the Jews were under this edict. They were all going to be killed. Her uncle Mordecai knew this, and she wanted Esther to approach the king. And she said, "I can't. Nobody can approach the king without the king approaching you. He'll kill me." And that's when he said, "How do you know you haven't been made for a time such as this?" And so when I look at that, I was uniquely made for this time. This is my time. I was basically at retirement. Um, Cindy, my wife, Grace, and I mean, we were having the time of our life. It was really a blast having her around. I had learned I had heart disease several years before Grace died. And because of that, I started systematically turning over the business that I owned to my men to run. And so once Grace died, I was able to do this full time. The business is mature, so it's profitable. So we're able to do things that people haven't been able to do. I've been married 38 years. I've been a business owner for almost shortly after that, so for about 35 years. Ultimately, why am I telling you those two things? Because you asked me the question, how do you deal with those things? Well, as I'll eloquently tell you, I've been kicked in the sack so many times, you can't feel it anymore. So, I mean, it's no biggie when people act like that.
Michael, you said that, you're questioning about the media. Well, me looking at all this from the outside, and just recently, looking at what's going on, I got to tell you, it confirms in my heart that the media, the mainstream media, is just outright evil. And they're not going to look at anything that contradicts their ultimate goal. And that's why people won't take, the story, and they won't look and say, they won't listen to the dad, they won't listen to the father, and they won't look at it and go, yeah, I see that. I see what he's saying, and I'm going to run with that. I'm going to run with that story. Oh, no, we can't do that. No, you can't run with that. I'm not saying that everybody in the media is evil, everybody in the media is bad, but those people that aren't, those people that look at things and want to get into it, dig into it, and get the facts out, they're just shut out. They're shut down. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. We just have a very evil media. That's just my opinion, for what it's worth.
Yeah. Yeah. We I mean, the evil is, it's at a point right now where I'm trying to get the words, guys. I just feel for Scott. I really do, Scott. I mean, death is one thing, but rhetoric is another. And the amount of rhetoric that you have received.
To go to a dad that's gone through what Scott's gone through and what Scott's going through, and for the people, the media, to look at somebody and go, the guy's just crazy. No. You guys are crazy because you won't follow the story. You guys are crazy. The media, you guys are crazy because you won't take and dig into it. You won't verify the facts that he presents to you. You won't look at the evidence and all that he's brought forth. You won't look at that. You're the crazy ones. You're the crazy ones. If we had an honest and forthright media, I don't believe Scott would be sitting where he's at today. I think things would have taken a different turn. But we don't battle against people. We battle against evil.
Yeah. And Scott, I do have this video here I wanted to show you. This is actually in the very, very beginning of how it came in. So the video is obviously more than a couple years old now, guys. But check this out. As we kind of plug it up here, it's going to Tibbs, you ready? Oh, no. Okay. Tibbs said a couple minutes. I apologize. But yeah, we'll plug it here. But I really want to show you this video, Scott, if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't.
It is actually on YouTube, where, you can catch it and everything. Tibbs, you got about a minute left. Okay. So Tibbs is uploading it right now on the network, but basically it's through the hospital where Grace had passed away at Ascension. Is that how you say it? Ascension Hospital?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. And that's a Catholic hospital, right? I mean, not that it means anything, but
Well,
The reason why I say
in theory, it's another one of those deceptions. So in
the
theory,
reason
it
why I
means
say that is because of how everything came to light. You know what I mean? Where, I mean, this is supposed to be a Catholic hospital. Why the hell are they doing all this stuff on the
well,
unaware?
Ascension Hospital System is the largest Catholic hospital system in the country. At the time I started doing the research after Grace's death, they had 30 billion in cash reserves. They save over $1 billion a year just in income tax by being a nonprofit. It's quite interesting as you see how deceptive just that entire system is. Then they have more money than me. So when the trial came, interestingly, two of their experts, they had purchased 6 experts for the defense, and 2 of the experts came from Johns Hopkins. And one of them was specifically involved with writing the COVID PSYOP protocols from Johns Hopkins. So this case became so important to them, they had to bring those big hitters in because they did not want this case to expose what the country is blind to.
Yeah, I think we have it. We got it now. Yeah. Check this out. What you got? You got it?
Ascension Health cleared of all wrongdoing Thursday in the landmark case Schara versus Ascension Health. Grace Schara died in October 2021 at Ascension St. Elizabeth Hospital in Appleton. Her family very public about her death over the past few years, as you can see here. Eventually, filing a wrongful death claim. Grace's dad, Scott, reacting immediately after the verdict.
Well, personally, of course, I'm disappointed, but, God knew this was he knew the verdict before we ever stepped one foot in this court. So we know God's will was done, even though we're personally disappointed. My best buddy, Grace, she would have said, it's just perfect. She would have said, God did it, Dad. And he did do it. We're the first COVID case in the entire country that made it to jury trial.
A 19-year-old from Freedom living with Down syndrome admitted to the hospital with COVID-19. Her family claims the doctors and nurses listed her as DNR, or do not resuscitate, without consent, also giving her a lethal cocktail of drugs that led to her death. An Ascension Health spokesperson reacting to the verdict in a statement, reading, "The loss of a child is heartbreaking and we extend our deepest sympathies to the family. Throughout this process, we have remained confident in the care provided by our team and in the values that guide our work each day. The health, safety, and well-being of our patients, associates, and community members is our top priority, and we are committed to honoring human dignity and acting with integrity and compassion for all persons." Her family understandably still shaken.
We want everyone to just know that we appreciate everyone that's been walking beside us and walking through this whole ordeal with us, because it's just meant the world to us.
Now, this case has been making headlines, national headlines even. The family hoping that it leads to some meaningful change outside the courtroom. For now, reporting in Appleton, David.
I am so mad. I am so mad right now.
Scott, were you aware of that statement that the hospital put out there?
I had seen that statement. Yeah, when I saw that, I think on the local news, the evening after the verdict, or maybe it was the next evening. And you start laughing at it because it's almost like, well, they had this canned statement that they were going to release regardless. Yeah. I just thought, man, so it's obviously not true. I mean, care and compassion, that was the, if Grace would have received care and compassion, she'd be alive today. I was taken out by an armed guard. That's what type of care and compassion my daughter received. So why was I taken out by an armed guard? The excuse they used during the trial is because I had COVID. I was there. I know why I was taken out. The nurse who came into the room and demanded that I leave with an armed guard said, "You need to leave immediately." I said, "What's the reason?" And she said, "The last shifts of nurses don't want you in the room." And then she said, "Second of all, you've been shutting off the alarms at night." I'm going to come back to each one of these. And then she said, third, we suspect you have COVID. So I'll just handle third first, because this is the excuse they used at the trial. Of course I had COVID. The doctor who was in charge of Grace's care when I was physically in the room, his name is Dr. Baum. He told me I'm going to get COVID. I said, no biggie. I mean, I don't care if I get COVID or not. So yeah, no kidding. I have COVID. I'm in the room with Grace 24/7.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand on how everything back then was labeled COVID. And then
Correct.
fast forward now, I mean, even to the end of 2024 going into 2025, like it's like COVID went off the radar map and everything is back to what you would normally have before pre-COVID, which was a cold or a flu. Like, where has that gone? Like, how come you don't hear about all the massive amounts of COVID deaths now in 2026 that you've seen back? Like, I'm sorry, Scott. Like, I believe you, but I don't believe these doctors. I don't believe Anthony Fauci for more than I could like give him credit to anything in this world, where something just magically disappears as it rapidly came into existence. I don't understand that. I really don't. I don't understand how a disease rapidly comes in the country and then like just rapidly vanishes. Like it didn't even exist.
One thing I couldn't understand along that lines, Michael, is it came on so fast, like you said, so fast, and then all of a sudden everything else disappeared. What happened to the flu? What happened to the cold? No, everything was COVID. You break your arm, the bone's poking out, you go to the hospital, it's COVID.
Yeah.
Me and my son did a podcast about that when it was happening, and we were just, it was like everything was just blamed on COVID. Everything's COVID. I got a speeding ticket. COVID.
Nothing is COVID now, Scott. No. Everything is like it's back to like the the COVID era wasn't even here for like a few years. Like it like they plan it like it doesn't exist. Sure, you see people in certain states wearing their masks and stuff like that, but I mean everything has like kind of came back into pre-COVID days. Yeah,
it's almost like if you didn't know, it's almost like you wouldn't even believe that it happened.
Exactly. So
that's all by design too. Interestingly, they still play that card. My wife is helping a lady who's disabled, and she's in a nursing type facility. She goes there 3 days a week, and they are still playing that card with the masking and the testing. She stopped in Walgreens on January 22nd. And the reason I know that is because I have the snapshot of that stop because I used it on my own podcast. And there's a display, you can buy 2 COVID tests for $22.99. It's like, oh my gosh, do people not realize this was an entire psyop? But, so they still have a piece of the population locked into that narrative. Then, it was interesting to me, Jim, you mentioned about the media being evil. So I just want to connect that dot as to why is the media evil? Well, the media by itself isn't evil. They're bought and paid for by the ones who are evil. So who is that? And, if you look at a deception that has been sold to us is in Ephesians 6:12, which says that our battle is against spiritual forces. But it also says, if you look back, not in the modern translations, but go back to the Geneva Bible that was written in the 1500s, and you see that it says that our battle is against worldly governors. So our government is against us, and we can't. So the government buys the media and they tell it to us. So you guys both probably saw. This was now about 2 weeks ago too, where Trump went on X and said he's going to block any network from playing any other football game other than the Army Navy game. Did you guys see this?
I seen that. Yeah.
So he's telling us we control the media by executive order. I'm going to stop any other football. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, but people just, they chuckle and laugh. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. The president's going off half.
Since you're on politics, what's your approach or what's your view on RFK Jr. Going into certain aspects of big pharma, meaning the preservatives? Are you for that or?
So in the big picture, remember, they're implementing these supposed wins. Okay, so they give us these nuggets. So, they get us out of the World Health Organization. The childhood vaccine agenda is now down to 62 jabs from 82 jabs. So these are all little wins that people are pointing to.
So I'm not putting words in your head, but you see it more as a distraction so they can paint another agenda, more or less?
Complete deception. I see it. It's the false prophet side of the equation. That's how Satan always works. So we have now the false prophets working on that deception, but they will never cut off the head of the snake.
And they know who the head of the snake is. We just don't have anybody. We just don't have anybody that's got the balls to just do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I want to put this graphic up here, guys, because I can't emphasize this more than enough from this damn pandemic. Because I don't call it a pandemic. I call it a plandemic, because that's what it was. It was a plan, and then they warped it into the demic part here. This is what I truly believe where we are now as a country, guys. 5 years later, America looks back at the impact of COVID-19. Most Americans are saying that the pandemic drove the country apart, which I truly believe that. You see in the upper right-hand corner of the graphic, massive civil unrest, people that still don't trust the science part of the data. They're still, you see that. You see the divide. Some people wear masks. Some people aren't wearing masks. Do you see that, Scott? Do you see that this pandemic drove us apart a little bit?
The divide and conquer strategy is another tool of Satan. So of course, they're using it more than just COVID. They used it with, the big one right now is the border situation. Both, you've just got to realize both sides want an open border. Once you come to grips with that, then you realize it's a deception. One side is saying it's a free-for-all. The other side is going to act like they're going to control the border. They both want an open border. What's the reason? Because if you zoom out, it facilitates the goal that they're all marching toward, which is a new world order, which is one world government, one world religion. So one world government, we've got to have everybody believe that we need a national ID, we need a worldwide ID, and that's how we can stop immigration. We can set, Venezuela opens up the whole deception of the dollar, and we can get rid of this fraudulent fiat money system by having a digital currency. So now all these events marches further toward.
I get what you're saying. It's all by design.
All by design.
Yeah, everything is by design, and God, we barely escaped the more or less the collapse of COVID. We're still feeling the effects now into the next phase. Yeah, COVID is more or less gone here in America, but the ending result is here of what you're experiencing now with the turmoil of it. Yeah.
Well, not just the turmoil. You mentioned earlier in the show about how there's a lot more fighting, and it's because this jab, assuming it got into roughly 75% of the population, this thing is causing harm that is beyond what we can grasp. Already, I think the number is about 800,000 dead in America from the COVID jab. Millions have been maimed. So those are direct results. But what about the impact on the brain? Yeah, the brain to process.
And we still don't know what's in it. They still haven't made public of what's in this stuff. We don't know what's in these jabs, the ingredients. We're just told that, hey, it's safe to use and this and that. But clearly, is it safe to use it? Is it safe to, put stuff in your arm that you have no idea what's in it? That's like telling you something like, oh, yeah, that food is good. Well, how long has it been sitting around for? Oh, I don't know, but it's probably still good to eat. That's like just basic common sense, right?
Correct.
Shit. I mean, where has, and this is funny, I say this here, Scott. People still have trust issues to an extent with the government on both sides, whether you're on the right, the left, or even maybe center balance. We still have our trust issues with the government. But this COVID hysteria has got people believing that, well, they're telling me that I should get a booster shot and, a couple other jabs to protect myself from getting terminally ill. So if they're saying it's okay, maybe I should take it. You're going to do that scenario, but you're still trusting the government with your financial brackets of money and other, financial things that you have around you. You're going to be okay with that, but you're not going to be okay with the other things. How does that work? Make me understand that, please.
I don't know.
I mean, Jesus.
Well, George Carlin, he had a great line for that. And I think it is the biggest psyop that COVID was a monster psyop. 9/11 was a monster one. JFK's assassination, but the largest psyop is the American dream. And George
you could
Carlin,
throw J6 into that too. I mean, that
J6
just
would be one.
God, yeah.
The American dream, George Carlin said, the reason it's called the American dream is because you have to be asleep to believe it. And they have us chasing that idea, that we can retire early if we work hard. Because of the deception of World War II, they got the women in the workforce. And so consequently with women in the workforce, now both the husband and wife are working to make ends meet. And so they have to send their kids to the public school system for free indoctrination service. Right. In order for that to happen, the kids have to have 80 jabs. So now they set the children up for lifelong dependency on big pharma. The American dream is the biggest deception we've ever been sold.
Mm. Yep. Mm. Scott, I'm sorry, Tom, did you want to talk here? Or we call him Tom, by the way, the old man. Get it, Tom?
Okay, I just saw in the private chat, I saw his name was Jim, the old man. So it's really Tom?
No, it's Jim.
It is Jim. Okay.
That's his nickname. We call him Tom because the old man. Yeah.
Oh, the old I like it. That's good.
For the old man.
Yeah. He goes by split personalities.
I don't want anybody to know who I really am.
No. He goes by split personalities. We're still trying to fix his brain. Maybe he's been suffered by, I'm just going to put some humor in there, guys.
I haven't had any COVID shots, period.
I hope not. Jeez.
I've never had a flu shot. Period. That's one thing my mom told me as a nurse. She says, "Don't let anybody give you a shot." But I go, "Why?" And she goes, "Because you don't know what's in it." And
that's right.
And another thing she told me is she said, "Don't be an organ donor." Why is that? Because if they need an organ and you're there, all of a sudden you're not alive. So, I mean, my mom had insight to stuff going on in the hospitals, and that's just a couple of them.
Hey, the blood belongs in the veins, not out of the veins, right? That's what my grandfather used to say, God rest his soul. The blood belongs in the veins, not out of the veins. It's good to donate every now and then, but don't donate too much because you never know if you're going to still have the same amount of blood 45, 50 years later.
You just, I don't trust. I don't go to the doctors. I don't do stuff like that because I just don't trust. I don't trust anyone.
No, but it was great to have you. I've been meaning to have you back on, so you could share, some of the journey through all this here and, the heartache and the battles, the constant legal battles. And I'm sorry what happened with the case. I was pulling for you, Scott. I thought, they were really going to, show in favor of your case there and in defense there. And it's heartbreaking.
Don't be sorry. I mean, it was.
No, Scott, I mean this, buddy. I mean, it's heartbreaking because like what you gone through. I mean, seriously, if you want to see medical malpractice and literally you said you were getting to the hospital and they more or less wrote up a chart on this with, in my personal opinion, without your consent, Scott.
Yeah,
right?
They said, what's interesting is one of the precedents that was set with the trial should scare anybody, because they came up with this idea of implied consent. And what the jury bought and what the jury decided is that when you cross that threshold into a hospital, you're giving implied consent.
That's crazy.
And
You brought up protocols in the first part I had you on. Is this because they were going through these radical COVID protocols or something?
yeah, so that's an interesting. So protocols, I'll talk about it with COVID, but what I have discovered is it's way bigger. So protocols are probably behind more hospital deaths than anything else. And what's going on is the programming has the system looking at the protocols versus the person. So with Grace, for example, they put her on Precedex. So the Precedex protocol was to have an infusion titration rate from 0 to 1.4. Well, Grace had a reaction at 1.0, and she had multiple reactions. The package insert for Precedex shows those are possible reactions. Well, the hospital staff ignored those reactions and ratcheted up Precedex even further. Grace's expert for the trial said, it was just a matter of time, because they broke that threshold of what Grace's body would tolerate. Everybody is different. And so it was just a matter of time before Grace was going to be dead. And that's the problem with protocols. So during COVID, what happened is protocols became directly incentivized for the first time. So just to rewind, how did they pull off COVID? The Health and Human Services Secretary unilaterally decides if the country is going to be under a public health emergency. Once the country's under a public health emergency, the FDA develops countermeasures that, once the countermeasures are in place, the PrEP Act, which was passed in December of 2005, gives legal immunity for following these countermeasures. So that's the COVID umbrella in a nutshell. So once somebody got into a hospital, one of the protocols was remdesivir. One of the protocols was a ventilator. If the hospital convinced the patient or their family to be on those protocols, or did it unilaterally, those protocols were directly incentivized. And if the person died based on one of those, when one of those protocols are used, they're legally immune from prosecution. So that's why Grace had a lawsuit. We did not give a pre-authorization for a ventilator. We never used remdesivir. So the protocols used on Grace were outside of COVID. That's why we were able to get our foot in the door and ultimately go to jury trial. Okay, so now zoom out to protocols. So these idea of protocols, so the HHS, the Health and Human Services Department, was legislated into reality in 1980. What happened after that concept got legislated into reality, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which was put in place on July 30th of 1965, got legs. So now we have 1965 Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, 1980 HHS, Health and Human Services Department, 1984, the Chevron Doctrine. The Chevron Doctrine said now these bureaucracies, like the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, can write protocols. So I'll give you guys an example of a protocol you're both familiar with. What's the protocol when you get cancer? Answer: chemotherapy.
That's automatically,
That's automatically. So that protocol is called a standard of care. So that's a deceptive term in and of itself, but it's called a standard of care. So if a person gets cancer, the doctor uses chemotherapy, and the person dies based on that protocol, they are immune from prosecution. So this is nothing to do with COVID. It's way bigger than COVID.
Scott,
chemotherapy has a 2.1% success rate over 5 years. That's the success rate. So that means it has a 97.9% fail rate, and yet that's the standard of care.
Yeah.
That's why I say this is all by design.
That's murder, Scott. That's
correct.
Literally
Murder.
How should I label it? That's like legalized murder, more or less. Through a court system. I mean, that's crazy. Like, where you just said, and these statistics are true, folks. You could look them up.
They are. Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. Like how they were able to commit all this The judge just like, he's seen your case and literally overlooked everything. That's.
I don't understand the jury. Scott,
It's not just the jury. It's not just the jury. It's the damn judge. The judge just like literally overlooked everything. Like, he brought daughter was brought to the hospital. All right. And they literally signed something without the parental's consent, meaning Scott and his wife.
That doesn't make sense.
That's absurd.
Well, I'm going to go one step further than that. We brought this up the last day of trial. So I went on the stand the last day as a rebuttal witness. And the reason that we put me on the stand the last day is we brought into the trial a fraudulent medical record. So when you get the medical records, you go through those and you prepare for trial. Well, the general consent form. So if you think about, you go into a hospital, they want you to sign this form, which then you've legally turned over your rights to the hospital, which I would encourage nobody to sign that form. I mean, if they present you with that form, make sure you cross off initial. Don't be unilaterally agreeing to turn your rights over.
Always look at the fine print. Yeah, please, absolutely, folks. Yes.
That general consent form in Grace's medical records was fraudulent. When we went into the ER, Grace and I was with Grace.
Hold on, Scott. Did you show the judge this?
Yes, we showed the judge and the jury. So the record in Grace's case, it said that Grace, my daughter who had Down syndrome, I was the power of attorney, and it said that Grace orally approved the general consent form. This
how the hell can she? How can she do that within her condition?
She couldn't have. I mean, they time-stamped it roughly 15 minutes after we got into the emergency room. I was with Grace.
She was already sedated under medication, though, right?
No, she wasn't at all. She was just herself. She just was on a regular oxygen cannula. Her and I were goofing around. She went in with a cold. But
within her condition, Scott, I'm sorry to interject, but within her condition of Down syndrome, okay,
she would have never. She didn't have.
That has to be looked at. I mean, you can't just make a radical decision because obviously, with all due respect, Scott, your daughter's mindset is not the same as a regular human mindset. That doesn't have.
That's right on. She didn't have the capacity to make that decision. Yet they said on that form that not only did she make the decision, she did it orally. Grace could sign her name, by the way. And the person who said that Grace did it orally, guess what? Their name is nowhere on that document. They left that space blank. So that document was created after Grace died to support their narrative in the medical records.
That's crazy. It really is. And guys, I have to throw a side note. This episode will not be published on YouTube due to the nature of the topic. I'm serious, Scott, because it's going to get flagged automatically. So you can catch us just about everywhere besides YouTube, Rumble, X, Spotify, all over, all our audio platforms, including with an exception of TikTok, but certain clips will be plugged. Obviously not, but I just had to throw that out there, Scott, because you know how they're automatically going to flag it on YouTube. So it's not even worth it.
Yeah, that's funny. It's redundant to even say that. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Even TikTok flags you. Like I'll have to my producer and my team will have to go through different things. And we've done it before with your first episode that you were on with us, and we were getting flagged out of the gazoo. I mean, still now 6 years later, it still gets flagged. Like, what are they afraid of? Yeah. Are they afraid of the truth?
They're afraid of the truth. Yeah.
Well, they're afraid of people like Scott, fighting for his rights because what happened to his daughter. I mean, I'm glad, Scott, you brought this up because we didn't have time to bring this up with the first part I had you on.
This is fantastic. I mean, I really appreciate being able to just openly share.
And this is stuff you won't hear on networks, guys, because they're afraid to even cover it. I'm sure if you went on Fox 11 there, that clip that we just showed through Fox 11, Fox 11 wouldn't even know where to start with it. They're like, oh no, we can't do that. No, we're gonna get taken down. The FCC is gonna hammer us. There's no FCC here, guys, not on Spotify. So enjoy it.
So I met the general manager of Fox locally. I saw him at an event, a suicide walk event that we go to annually. We lost our son to suicide in 2018.
I'm sorry to hear that, Scott.
And so he knows of Grace's story, and I got a chance to just chat with him there briefly. And so I shook his hand, and he said, thanks for everything you're doing. He's been following, and yet he's the general manager of Fox locally, and they can't have me on, of course. And he has a direct line to me. He has my email address. He could just contact me.
They can't have you on? Well, why can't they have you on?
Well, because they know they can't control what I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. There would be a lot of like censors and probably bleeps, and they'll warp your words. I mean, look what, I know you don't agree with everything with President Trump, but look what BBC did to President Trump with the whole January 6th. They'll warp the words, they'll put stuff that's not really accurate. And, look at this guy. He's a whack. He's coming out on Fox 11 saying that the hospital killed his daughter. I mean, you know how they're going to go with that, Scott. It's crazy how these people act. But no, Scott, we're losing time on this show. I do want to say thank you. Okay. And I know that the case didn't go in your direction, but please, sir, do not give up. I think rightfully so for the nation. You are the rightful warrior of just tackling this whole COVID nightmare. Okay, because you are the voice of reason, and I hope that you continue doing what you're doing with all this.
I plan on it.
The thing is, though, to what you said, Michael, you said that we can look at it and we can say, well, the plan, it didn't go the way that Scott wanted it or we wanted it, but it may have went the way God wants it to go. Because God ain't done.
That's right.
God ain't done.
I'm positive it went the way God wanted it to go.
Exactly.
So that's the reason I'm confident with that, outside of the fact that it's already over. So we know God's sovereign, but I did leave it all on the battlefield. I have never worked so hard on something in my life. That trial, the trial itself was an absolute blast. And the reason it was a blast is because we were so prepared. I had taken 4 months off, and I worked with the legal team 7 days a week for 4 months.
I know. I've been seeing the updates throughout the last couple of years. You've been nonstop with this, but no, we did give you some extra time because I know the first time it was only 45 minutes. So this show's about an hour and a half now, but we are losing time, and I do want to say thank you, Scott, and I appreciate that. And I'm going to plug your socials here on the screen, guys. If you want to know more about Scott and follow his amazing journey through this and story, you can check him out on his podcast, which is Deprogramming with Grace's Dad podcast, and that's just about available just all over the place. Spotify, other outlets pick it up, including his Facebook page. Our Amazing Grace is what is that? Vimeo page there. Our Amazing Grace. Twitter, obviously, at Deprogramming with Grace's Dad. And if you want to know more about this gentleman here, Scott Schara, you can go to graceschara.com. I hope I pronounced that right, Scott. It's Schara, right?
It's actually Schara, but the main website,
okay, yeah.
graceschara.com is still going. We set that up for the lawsuit. The main website now that I would, it's always been there. That's the one we started with, is ouramazinggrace.net. And if there's one thing people want to know, what can we do? In the upper right-hand corner of ouramazinggrace.net is a link to subscribe to our newsletter. So that is our Substack, and I write Substacks about one every 2 weeks. When my book comes out, I'll be announcing it via Substack so people can have a chance to purchase that. The title of the book is the Government Legally Killing Us? And it's an exciting. My first book. I have the second one already started. It is really a neat opportunity to write a book. Never thought I would do it.
Is that available on audio or e-Kindle?
Well, that will be the plan once we got to get it. So it's
gotcha.
Going through the final proof tomorrow at 1:00, and then it gets uploaded to Amazon, and that whole process. So it should
definitely
be all available in February.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Well, yeah, definitely check it out. And I encourage you guys to check out that book because I'm sure it's gonna catch some, rightful eyeballs more or less with that and everything. Scott, I want to say thank you, buddy. Good luck with your future endeavors and continue the fight for this because God willing, we need people like you, with this because now some years later, we're still suffering from COVID, somewhere up there, and and I do want to send my condolences to, your family and may Grace rest in peace because, she was a beautiful young lady and it's sad that she left. So thank you very much, Scott. And,
Well, thanks to both of you guys. Jim, nice to meet you, Jim. Michael, great to see you again. And God bless both of you.
And may God always keep you in peace, Scott. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, touching story. Real touching story.
It's made me mad. It's made me mad. It's made me sad.
I told you that this episode will be emotional. And I've met this gentleman, all those years ago, a few years ago. And I mean, the story hasn't changed. Tom, sorry. He's calling you Jim. The story hasn't changed. Like it's, and I'm pissed because of the case.
Yeah, I am too.
That's what I'm pissed about.
I'm pissed at the judge. I'm pissed at the jury. It's like, who's got into whose pockets, man? And the one thing that didn't get brought up that I was wondering about, sounds like a lot of insurance in the background. Sounds to me like insurance people involved. You know what I'm saying? Michael, we're just living in an overwhelming evil world right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like I said,
how else to say it.
Yeah, like I said, for those that have, got to know Scott through, more or less digital, through social media, and then countless of networks, with Fox and Newsmax, and there's so many networks that picked up the story. It's like I said, it's caught national attention, and rightfully so because of what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I just followed him on X.
Yeah, he's an amazing gentleman, and like I said, you got to check his podcast out, guys. I can't emphasize that more than enough. But other than that, we're gonna get going here. But check us out tomorrow for our regular live stream, guys. That's right, we're gonna be on with a very special guest, Craig Skalaska, if I pronounce his name right. I think it's Jewish. I don't know, but he's got one of those names, Skalaski. I think that's how you say it. He'll be on with us tomorrow, and then on February 8th, we're going to have another gentleman on. That is Did I have it backwards, Tibbs? Yeah, Craig will be on the 8th with us on February, and then we're having Mr. Bill, right? Bill on with us tomorrow. He is he's a lawyer out of Texas, and he handles a lot of bail bonds. Sorry about that, guys. I had it backwards. Yeah, Tibbs is screaming it. You had it backwards, Savage. Sorry. Craig will be on the 8th with us, and then we'll actually have on Mr. Bill from the great state of Texas. Like I said, he's a bail bondsman, and he's had some crazy cases. So, yeah, we're turning into like the legal system now here on This Week. Jesus.
You said Bill's on tomorrow?
Yeah, Bill. Yeah. Mr. Bill. Huh?
The third. He's on the 3rd.
Yeah, he's going to be on our regular live stream tomorrow. Yeah, which you can catch every Tuesday, guys. We're going to. Oh,
am I going to be on? Am I going to
be on? Of course, if you're available, right? Jeez.
I am.
Yeah. I mean, you got your own podcast, the Old Man's Podcast on Podbean. I don't want to certainly take you away from that.
Thanks,
but
we had a great show today, by the way.
We did.
Yeah.
A little emotional, but rightfully so.
This one, but I mean my show this morning. We had a great show.
Oh yeah, what'd you guys talk about?
We had a lady on by the name of Lavina Zook, and she's a former she's Amish. She's a former Amish girl, and she's got a cookbook out. But she was talking to us about being an Amish and then being away from it.
I know her. She was on my friend Walt Blau's podcast, Be Raw podcast, some months ago. She's an interesting character. Yeah, I've seen that episode with him. Yeah.
Sure,
But no, guys, I just want to plug this here. We do have a new format and some new stuff coming out. Very, very, very new stuff. We're going to have a new show. Every Tuesdays are going to be our exclusive shows, only available on our video platforms, X, Rumble, YouTube. Yeah. I can only put certain stuff on YouTube, obviously, because of the content. This show today, this episode won't be available on YouTube due to the nature of the topic, COVID. It's just not worth it. It's going to get flagged. I already know it is. But every Tuesday will be our live streams. And then Monday, Thursdays, and Saturdays will be our shows available on Spotify and as well as the regular video formats on Rumble, YouTube, X, and Facebook. So, and then Fridays is our Savage 10s. That's just a quick little 10-minute episode to kind of run you by the week of what's on my mind, maybe what's on Tom's mind. I might have a guest on what's on their mind. It's just to kind of separate a little bit of the format. But again, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Yes, it was an emotional show, but Scott's fighting through medical tyranny. Literally.
Keep them in your prayers.
Yeah, keep them in your prayers. And if you like this episode, guys, please hit that like and share button on any major platform you're tuning us in. And I'll leave a comment. I just like to know who's checking us out. A lot of people, they don't like leaving comments because we live in privacy now and everybody's private, but it's okay. Other than that, guys, thanks very much for tuning in. I'm Savage. This is the old man. Again, till next time. See you later, guys.
This had been a Truth Productions media episode. Thank you for listening.